Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about our app today. Our app was launched in December and it was built by Impact Consulting with a lot of input from us as well. So when we decided that we wanted an app, we thought, what do we actually hope to achieve by this? We wanted to provide the community with a easy-to-use, smart platform, an application that helps improve the levels of education, communication, service delivery, and customer service. The other thing that was top of our mind is that we are two councils that have recently amalgamated. We have services that are slightly different for the two former councils, and we needed some more dynamic ways of presenting information than the yearly information that we usually provide. So that there were things where we changed the services so they were more equal on both sides, that we didn't have to print everything again. So I think one of the most important things is when you do any sort of education program or any sort of communication program, it's what's the bang for your buck? What sort of reach are you going to get for the sort of money that you're paying? We think that this is a very high value for money project. The initial capital we got from the New South Wales EPA from Waste Less, Recycle More. It can vary from about $7,000 to $35,000 depending on what sort of app you're looking at. Because we had two former councils with different services, even though the platform is the Bayside Waste Services app, we actually have two apps behind that. So ours was up the higher end of the scale. Sorry, I've clicked too far. Because it was two apps in one, and we also had a lot of features on our app. The education and promotion costs were about $5,000. I'll talk about the education we did later. And the data verification, build and test was about $12,000. We're estimating about 6 weeks of different officers' times for that. A lot of that was actually building the actual databases. We have a rates database, we have property databases, but we don't necessarily have databases that have all the information about all the different services that each address is getting. And we had to build that sort of from scratch and build it in a format that could be uploaded into the app. On a yearly basis, this year we've applied for Waste Less Recycle More to cover the annual fees and the hosting. The annual fees are about $4,600 and the hosting is about about $1,500. There's also annual maintenance. Annual maintenance is things like updating the database, service changes, yearly updates. You know, every year your drop-off days are going to be different. It doesn't include the upgrades and it doesn't include the time that we spend answering request forms that we get from the app. And then we want to look at future improvements too. So we've allowed about $2,000 to look at improvements that we can talk to Impact about. An app is not going to do you any good if none of your residents know that you have one. So we've put a lot of effort and energy into promoting the app. Our Waste Services Guide goes to every single resident once a year, and on the inside cover it has a full page on the app. Our recycling calendar, it talks about the waste app on the back of the recycling calendar. This goes to all our single units and all of the multi-units that have to present their own bins on recycling day. It's promoted on several pages of our recycling and waste section of our website. We did social media. A lot of people in the Bayside community are actually part of our Facebook page, so it's a good way to get that information out to people. We put about 400 A3 cloth loop posters on the sides of our rubbish bins and street litter bins, so when you're driving past or you're walking past, you can see about the app. And we also put it on 10 of our in-house collection vehicles. You know, it's a very good-looking ad, it's in our colours, and it helps to promote council as well as the app. It was in the Southern Courier with talking about the new app. So what does our app actually do? When a resident downloads an app, they're asked to enter their address, their suburb, their street and their street number. If for some reason they're not in the database, if there are new premises that's come online that we haven't actually put in the database yet, then there's a hyperlink to a phone number for our education officer so they can talk to our education officer and we'll put them in the app. Once they've put in their address details, they get details of all their bin collection days, and the blue one is their clean-up day. In the app that we purchased from Impact, there wasn't a provision for clean-up, but we think it's important that the community, that's one of the most frequent questions we get, when is our clean-up day? So we thought it was important that that information was included, and we worked with Impact to get that included in the app for the first time, I think. You can also set up reminders, so you can get a reminder for your next bin collection or every bin collection you have until you turn off the reminders. Down the bottom, they've got events that are happening that month. At the moment, we've got all our drop-off events. We hold 22 a year in there, and you can click on the little bits about the app at the bottom. Whatever, you can see them anyway, the purple ones, and it'll come up with a full page telling you all information about what you can drop off, what the address is, etc., etc. There's information about each of the curbside services. You can click on any of those services and it'll give you detailed information about what that service is, what you can put in your bins, what you can't. Same information that we provide in the waste guide, but in a format that we can update more regularly. There's a very comprehensive A to Z list. We were given a template for an A to Z list, but we worked on that and made it a lot more comprehensive. For the first time, we've had included hyperlinks. So say you want to know what to do with car batteries. You can scroll down and it tells you that you can take them to a chemical clean-out. You click on that and it hyperlinks you straight to the EPA chemical clean-out site. You can also report issues, which I think is a very valuable feature for a lot of residents, especially ones that don't want to be calling council during their work hours in their own office. Illegal dumping, damaged or stolen bins, missed services, reporting overflowing bins, or just general inquiries. For the first time, we've actually set it up so that you can't submit, say, an illegal dumping report without providing your name and contact details. That way we don't get any reports that we can't follow up because we don't know who the witness was because they've given us the wrong address, that sort of thing. Once a report is generated, an SMS gets sent to the resident saying, thank you, this is your reference number, that they can call up customer service and say, this is the reference number I was given. And council, we get an email, and it also goes to our content management system, which is a web-based tool where we can look at everything that's been submitted. We've also got a more information section. This is set up in the same way that we've set up our waste guide, which is following the waste hierarchy, starting with waste reuse and going down to all the different issues, like in this case, avoidance of disposable one-use cups. As part of it, we also have an online web widget. This isn't something that will just happen by itself. Impact will do it, but they will need help from the council's IT department to actually put it onto your website. We found that this has been a very valuable tool for people who don't want to use mobile. You can check into it at your library. It's also something that customer service uses so that they don't have to refer to maps anymore when people call up and say, when's my clean-up day? After 3 months, we did a review of the app to see how it was going. There's been about 3,000 downloads in a 3-month period, which if you assume 1 download per household, then we're looking at about 5% of all households. The majority, about 2/3, were Apple devices, about 1/3 were Android, and about 1% was Windows. We did Windows because we didn't want anybody in our community to miss out, but it is at a significant extra cost. So you've got to weigh up whether 1% is actually worth you going into that extra platform. This is the content management system. The beauty of this is it allows you to make changes to the app without having to go back to the service provider. This gives you a lower annual cost. You can update the number of premises, the details about premises. You can add your own events. You can add A to Z materials, or you can take them off. And you can look at all the forms that you've received via email. Some of our forms are actually sent directly to the contractor. We've got a contractor doing some of our collection services. So if there's a damaged bin, it goes straight to them, which reduces the time on us, but so we can still monitor it later if we want to see how many we've got. And that can be downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet, so you don't have to look through every entry individually. So what were the customer service reports we got most of? Most of them were damaged, stolen bins. People just want their bins replaced. They don't want to have to talk to anyone. They don't want any sort of difficult procedure. We've also got a lot of people reporting illegal dumping and missed services, and we got a fair few general inquiries. Just one thing to be aware of, that if you don't have a whole of council app, and people think that the app is convenient, then they will use the general inquiry to report things that aren't waste issues. So there's probably about, it's low, it's probably about 5-10% of the inquiries we get might be about something that isn't specifically a waste app issue. But because we're responsible for the app, we're still responsible for making sure those things get actioned. We did a review to see if there was one section of council, one form of council, where they were using the app more than the other, and it was about even on both sides. So it's great to see that, especially because for the residents' perspective, there is no difference between either form of council in what they see on the app. What are some of the future improvements we could make? We are putting together an apps user guide. When you've been working on it laboriously like I have, putting together all the A to Z guides and all the databases and error testing it, you think it's very easy to use, but there's some things that the resident might say to you that isn't quite as obvious. We've also noticed some differences between the different versions of the app. Here in the cleanup, where you've got the different services, it's got a little arrow to show that you can click on it and it'll come up with more detailed information. That appears on the Apple version, but it doesn't appear on the Android version. So, somebody said to us, I didn't know I could click on that. I didn't know I could find out more information about my recycling. And so we're looking at getting that sort of information improved. We want some more user-friendly forms. I think we pushed the forms as user-friendly as we could get for the price we paid, and probably above and beyond what we paid. There were other things that we would have liked in there that wasn't part of the package we purchased, but we could use we could put in future modifications. At the moment, if you don't, which one's this about? Okay, so this is about illegal dumping. At the moment, if you're at an illegal dumping site, you can say upload photo, you click on your camera and it'll upload the photo. You can't upload photos that have been saved to your gallery previously, so it means you can't take the photo and then go home and then upload the photo. That's something that has been brought to our attention as something that would make it more user-friendly. Pop-up error messages. As I said, this is the first time that it's actually had a way of rejecting a form that's not filled in properly, or where they haven't filled in enough information for us to make sense of it. But even though it has little stars saying this is required information, if you don't put in the right information, then you can't press the submit button. But it won't tell you which actual entry you put in wrong. So some people have come back and said confused, saying, I know I haven't put in the right information in one of the entries, but I'm not sure which one it is. So that's something we might improve in the future too. So what are the conclusions? We do think it's great value for money compared to printed information. It's not going to mean that we don't need printed information, but it might mean that the printed information we provide doesn't need to be as comprehensive. Things that we assume may change during the year, we can save for the app or save for the web so that we're not confusing residents. We are reducing the reliance on customer service. At the moment, before this, all the waste inquiries were going through to customer service. Now they can send it directly to the waste department, and we have written information that we can respond to, which is sometimes a lot easier than trying to respond to somebody off the top of your head when they give you a phone call. It is user-friendly and convenient for residents. There's a lot of less double handling. Like I said, some of the forms can be sent directly to the contractor, so that we're not making more work for council, especially since the collection contractor has their own customer service centre. And it's a great resource for council officers. We use the regional illegal dumping squad, and they had to call us sometimes and say, there's some stuff out on the curb. Is it actually a clean-up, or is it being illegally presented? Now they know, they can know very easily if it's a clean-up in that particular area on that particular week. Some things to just be aware of when you're going into this. Preparing the database and the information takes a lot more time than you might think. Especially, this is the first time we've done an A to Z guide for the entire council, and the last time the A to Z guide had been done for one of the former councils was a long time ago, and things have changed a lot since then. Also preparing the database in a format that they could actually use and upload. Council resources are required to update the app information and the properties. One of the dangers about information like this is because it's so easily accessible that if it's out of date, it'll make your council look even worse. So you have to actually have the resources in hand to say that I'm going to make sure that every week of every year, the information up there is relevant. And probably more of a suggestion than a warning is don't be afraid to ask for modifications, improvements. We're not IT people. We don't know what level of sophistication is required to make some additions to the app. Some of the things we asked for, Impact was able to provide quite easily. Other things they explained to us would be at a significant cost or time increase. But I think that I've seen some of the other apps that were given to us previously as examples, and I think we've built on that, and I'm sure that when the next council comes along, they'll build on that again, and together we can just make this a better app and a better resource for the community. How are we going for time? Okay, just one other thing I should mention. Only recently have both all of council been using the same customer request system. So we've been holding off for that to happen. Now that that has happened, we're actually working with Impact on a system where the app forms can go directly into our CRM system. So there's no extra handling required by the waste area. So I think that's a great resource for council as well. So if we've got time for questions, I'm happy to answer any. Yep. We've estimated that it'll be about, where have I got here? About 4 weeks a year. So that'll be several different council offices. We've estimated on average that'll be about $50 an hour, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it'll be less intensive than the original thing, but people are putting up new properties all the time, so you need a dedicated person that can do that. There are some parts of the content management system that you don't want anybody to be able to just touch at random because it could affect the whole way the app works, so you probably want to have 1 or 2 dedicated offices. So it might only, I'm the one that does it at the moment, so it might only be 15 minutes a week at the moment, but when we get to the end of the year and we've got to put in all our new drop-off information, and if we decide to change any of the services, that's when it'll become a bit more intensive.
Hi, sorry, I came in a bit late. Gavin from Kimsey Council. Do you have an ability to do push notifications for when, like, the contractor has said?
Yeah, so we haven't actually done any push notifications yet, but what happens is when they first download the app, it actually says, do you want to enable push notifications? And if they say yes, it means that we can do that. And you can do that through the content management system, so we don't have to go back to the service provider to do that. And because they've already given their permission, we're not sending out all these push notifications to people that really don't want to be bothered with it.